My name is Betty Bennett, and I worked in a dental office. Married with 2 children, and just all out of the blue one morning I woke up and my neck was hurting. Then I went to a chiropractor. I called my physician, and they ended up referring me to a neurologist. And I went to the neurologist, and they said that I did have a ruptured disc in my neck, and that was in 1991. And they did some physical therapy, and nothing seemed to work, so he did surgery. And what he did during the surgery was he basically removed a piece of broken disc out of a nerve. So I still had the ruptured disc after the surgery. It's just that chunk wasn't in my nerve, causing pain. I do believe that we did some MRIs, an MRI, and I believe that we did a myelogram maybe, and did several procedures like that beforehand, and it just showed that the disc was ruptured. The neurologist that I was recommended to had a pretty good reputation, so I didn't feel the need for a second opinion. I thought that he was one of the best in the area, so I decided to go with him. Well, because of his reputation, I was pretty confident in him. I didn't question him that much. I learned a lot from that experience, but I really don't recall that he did a lot of explanation. I think he basically told me he was going to go in from the back of my neck and take care of the problem.
So you felt like this one surgery is supposed to take care of your pain?
Yes. I was also having some numbness in my face, and that was bothering me quite a bit, so that's another reason why I wanted to go on and get the surgery before that got worse. Went into surgery, and the numbness in my face did stop. A lot of the pain stopped, but I continued having some problems. And I went back to him several times, and I asked him, what are we going to do about, I was having some pain in my thoracic area and some weakness in one of my legs. And I was asking him, what are we going to do about that? And he actually told me that in the thoracic area you can't have ruptured disc because of your rib cage being attached to it, that supports it and keeps it from having ruptured disc. So of course I believed him and kept going back to him several times, and he finally told me, he says, you need to get you a wheelchair. I was 38 years old at the time, and he said, you're going to be in a wheelchair before long. You need to get a wheelchair. He gave me a prescription for muscle relaxers, pain pills, and antidepressants. And I threw the prescriptions back at him, and I said, I'm not depressed, I'm in pain. And I said, is there anybody you'd refer me to for a second opinion? And he said, no, if you don't trust me, then no, I'm not going to refer you anywhere. I went back to my physician that had referred me to him, and he was so confident that I had had low back surgery that he kind of argued with me a little bit, and I said, no, he never did low back surgery on me. And he said, turn around, and he looked at my low back, and when he saw that there was no incision, he said, I'll be back in just a minute, because he was pretty confident that the doctor had done surgery. And he went over to his office, which was connected, and came back and said, they'll be calling you before the end of the day with an appointment to see him. But they were very difficult to work with me to get me an appointment back in, and I wasn't real excited about going back in to see him anyway. So I just ended up saying, okay, maybe this is my lot in life, and I just need to deal with it. But the pain kept on, and it kept getting worse. I discussed it with my husband, and we decided that no, we need to pursue something else, that this is not right, and this is not how I wanted to live the rest of my life. He did surgery on me in 91, and I went to see a chiropractor in 93 in Gallatin, and he said, you've had this problem a long time, So give me 6 months. And I agreed. I said, okay, I'll give you 6 months. Well, 3 months into it, he came to me and he said, my treatment is not helping. 3 more months isn't going to make any difference. And he referred me to another neurologist here in Nashville that was in the same office building as Dr. McCord, but I didn't know that at the time. So I spent some time with this neurologist, and he asked me about the ruptured disc in my thoracic spine. And I told him what the previous doctor said, that those discs can't rupture because of the rib cage. And he was very confused, and he went and he said, may I get some records? And I said, of course. So he did that, and we spent some time with him, and he diagnosed me with 2 or 3 more ruptured discs that the first doctor never acknowledged. And he then told me, he said, I'm going to give your paperwork to a doctor here in my office building and have them call you. Said he's really on the edge of some new things, and that I think that you'll benefit from his expertise. So he told me his name, David McCord, and he said, I want to send this paperwork over there to his office and talk to him. I said, okay. So in a few days, his office called and wanted me to come in for an appointment. And I was excited they got back to me that quickly. July 1993, I saw Dr. McCord. We came in for the appointment, and he actually saw me on a day that his office was closed, and he was in surgeries all day. So he came over to see me between surgeries, and he had reviewed my records and my charts and all my tests and everything, and he seemed really excited about a new procedure that he and another doctor had been working with. And he told me he'd been overseas and that they had done some over there, and that there was a doctor in Texas that was working with him on these new procedures. And he asked me if I would be interested in those. And at the time, I'd been in pain for over 2 years. He seemed really excited about this, and I got wrapped up in his excitement. And he described to me about the carbon cages that replaced the disc. So I was really excited about that because, you still have more movement. Instead of fusing the vertebrae together, removing the disc and fusing the vertebrae together. So I was excited about that new idea, the new technique. He said he was going to do it laparoscopic instead of opening me up the way the old technique would be. So, of course, that was a big plus, just having, a few small incisions instead of a couple of big incisions. He said if he couldn't do it that way, the alternative would be the old way, which would be, since it was in the thoracic and it was ruptured on the inside of the spine, that he would have to open me up from the front, almost like heart surgery. And the recovery time was going to be months. But with the laparoscopic surgery and the cage replacement, it was just going to be a few weeks. So I'm thinking, what have I got to lose? So I agreed to do the procedure, the new procedure, the way he wanted to do it. And in August of 1993, I went in the hospital and he did the surgery. He did T7 and 8, I believe, thoracic 7 and 8, and lumbar 2. And I woke up and I just had a few incisions here and there. And I didn't know until I woke up exactly, what the outcome was going to be. I woke up after the surgery, and I was in, I think, ICU. And because he was able to perform the surgery, the new technique, the way that he wanted to, he wanted them to watch me closely. So he had me go to ICU instead of to a room. And they, watched over me. And so I didn't know until I woke up. Hours after, whenever I woke up when you were through with me, which way had it gone. Because I trusted you to do, you were going to try it, you were going to do the laparoscopic, and if it didn't If you couldn't do it that way, if you couldn't get to it that way, then you would have to go the other way. So I went in surgery. I trusted you a lot then, didn't I? I didn't move very much that first day or anything. And then when they moved me to another room the next day, he wanted me to start getting up right away. And I got up and would walk around and move around. And the more I moved around and walked around, the better it was. And when I was home, he said, he gave me some restrictions for a few weeks. No heavy lifting, no excessive twisting and turning, just be careful for a few weeks and let this heal. And I came back to him after a few weeks, and he was very pleased with the results. He did x-rays, and he said everything was in place and exactly where it should be and where he put it, and I was healing beautifully. And he lightened the restrictions a little bit, and I did take some medications, but I don't think I took them very long, maybe just for a few days. Like I said, the pain was gone, and it worked. And I was back at work in 6 weeks.